Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Alysia Lyons, excited to have our founder and intuitive coach from Mom Support Coach. That's who she is. Alysia Lyons joining us. Alysia Lyons, I should say. She's excited to be back here to talk about the work she does to help you out there. Hello, moms. You ever hear mom guilt? Yeah. And she's trying to bring peace. That's P-E-A-C-E into your life. She'll explain that in just a sec. But first and foremost, welcome back today. How are you?
Thanks so much. After our little technical glitch, I'm doing great.
Well, we're happy you're back. And by the way, let me just spell your name for everyone out there because that's your website. It's ALYSIALYONS.com. So welcome back. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Yeah, so I help moms eliminate guilt and increase the peace in their life. I've recognized that mom guilt is something that is huge for us moms. It's like they hand us a baby and then a sack of guilt, right, to go right along with it. And it just comes from how much we love these children. And I think that there's a little bit of shame that comes attached to the mom guilt. Like we all know that we have it, but we don't really talk about it. And so I'm here to talk about it because it's nothing to be shameful about. It is 100% part of how much we love our kids.
And it's good to know that you're not alone, right? It's so true. And, also some people might say, well, it might be a little difficult to open up to someone I don't know, I don't trust, but can you explain why you're such a trustworthy source? I know you have a lot of experience with this, and sometimes it's good to have that neutral person. It really is, because if you have someone that you know and you're in a circle, they're always going to be judgmental. I've learned that the hard way. So could you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my journey kind of started in 2019 when I'd been working with a coach for about a year at that time. I was in a training to become a coach. And one of the tools that we use is guilt and shame, because when somebody says, I feel guilty about XYZ, usually the response that we get from our friends and from well-meaning other people is, oh, you shouldn't feel guilty about that. And I always say that the next time that works will be the first time that works to actually get rid of your guilt. And even after I let go of my guilt, I've noticed that a lot of people have said to me, oh, you shouldn't feel guilty about that. I'm like, well, I did. And it was really affecting my relationships with the people in my life, because I became this super overprotective parent. And you might be thinking, well, why is that such a bad thing? And it's like, well,
wait a sec. Yeah,
it does it can do a lot of damage for the kids because they don't get the freedom that they want, and that they need to develop. So I've been in this work for 6+ years at this point. And I really just have this compassion for moms.
For sure.
That I want moms to be happy for their children, for themselves, because happy moms, happy families, it's there's definitely a correlation.
I agree 100%. Oh my goodness. And the type of work you're doing, by the way, I just want to point out, I love your background. You're based out of beautiful California. I'm in beautiful New York City, but you're working with people all over, right? And this is virtual work that you're doing. Could you just share how that part works?
Yeah. So I work either on phone calls or Zoom calls, depending on your tech level and your comfort. And it is, for the most part, we all kind of experience things similarly. So something hurt us and now we want to protect against it. And so I predominantly work with women because that's where my heart is. But I have had some male clients in the past. I'm starting to learn a little bit about dad guilt, because the guilt kind of is the same and how to get rid of it. But the reasons that moms and dads feel guilty is a little bit different. So what what I have on my website right now is a peace assessment. If you go to my website, alysialyons.com/peace, PEACE, there is now an assessment where you can just take a quiz on the 5 areas of where I believe that people we can increase or decrease our peace. So there's the people in our life, those that are really important to us, or the ones that we spend the most time around, our emotions, which ties into the guilt, our assets, like our physical surroundings. We're actually moving next month. And so I've started paring down some of my stuff because we have a lot more space where we're at, and we have a little less storage space where we're going. But I read Marie Kondo's book, and I know I'm saying her name wrong, but I don't remember how to say it correctly. But it's where you go through your things and you ask, am I using it, or does it bring me joy? And if the answer is no, then you thank it for its service and you move it on. And I just thought that was a kind of a really beautiful way of guilt-free passing along your stuff. So our physical surroundings, my physical surrounding at the moment is a little on the lower side because everything's everywhere. But I'm also releasing things, so that feels good too. And then the chaos in our lives, how much we put into our day.
Right.
And then our exhaustion, so our self-care. So it's a simple 5-question quiz. You rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, and where are you in your in your piece, and you'll get a little total at the end, and then you'll get an email from me on what your next steps are based on what your score is.
Got it. Thank you. And we need to go right to the website to take that test, right? What is it again?
alysialyons.com/peace, PEACE.
And could you just share the 5 categories, what they are exactly? People.
Absolutely.
Emotions,
People,
I forgot.
Emotions, assets, chaos, and exhaustion.
Got it. Doesn't sound so peaceful when you hear it that way, but we're working through it, right?
Right. Because, I mean, the people that are in our lives, they have the ability to increase and decrease our peace, including our children, including our spouse or significant others, including our mother-in-laws or mothers, depending on your relationships with them, our coworkers. They all have, the people that we spend a lot of time with or the people that we love have this ability to increase or decrease our peace.
Wow.
My goal is for you to have peace regardless of what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Mm-hmm. Well, our emotions, we don't always express our emotions. So when we keep our emotions suppressed, I talked to a mom just yesterday about the way that her child, who's on the spectrum, reacts to her crying. She said, I can't even express myself in my own home. And I said, well, let's challenge that, because you can tell your son and explain to your son these. So in this case, her tears were happy tears, and you can explain they're happy tears. And when you have unhappy tears, you can explain those too.
Wow.
And just because the tears have stopped when you start explaining to your son, it doesn't mean that the expression has stopped, like the releasing of it.
Wow. Well, it's funny because how do you release it? How do you get that? How do you release all of this and make it better? I mean, I know it's great to hear examples of the people that you're working with and even your own personal story. I'm not sure, if you want to share a little bit about that, because there's new listeners and viewers each and every week. Would you mind just telling us what brought you here to become this mom coach to help us with our own guilt?
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to work with moms from the moment that I started with my coaching certification. I was always, I'm a mom, and they always say it's usually an earlier version of yourself. And so I didn't really know who that was other than I'm a mom. And then I had some guilt on that I had been carrying around for several years, and my coach walked me through a process called guilt and shame,
Okay.
and or releasing guilt and shame, and it was identifying the rule that I had broken, because we all have these rules that we live by. A good person does this, a good mom does this, a good spouse does this, a good sister does that. And when we break those rules, then in order to maintain, I'm a good person or I'm a good sister, you have to have a punishment. And that punishment is guilt.
So true.
And so, but we carry around this guilt for years for things that, like, we wouldn't even give our kid a timeout for.
No.
Right? And
No.
for years, we would carry this stuff around and beat ourselves up
Yep.
for things that we didn't know were going to happen. So, and like I was saying earlier, like, most of the time people don't know what to do with guilt. And so they just say, don't feel guilty.
Wow.
In my research on mom guilt, of what other people were saying, that's what I saw the most. And that's why I said the next time that's going to work is the first time that's going to work. So then once I released the guilt, I really started to see it everywhere. And I was interviewing so many moms, and I was like, oh, she's feeling guilty. Oh, she's feeling guilty. And I had this, I didn't have confidence at the time in my speaking ability, in my coaching ability, because I was still learning. But I knew that I had stuff in my head that would help other people and in my heart. And so I sat down and I wrote it out like I was writing a blog. And so that turned into my book, called, Good Mom Rules: Ditch Mom Guilt and Find Your Happy.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. And we love it. Where can we find the book, by the way?
The book is on Amazon. You can also, probably the easiest way to find it is to go to my website, AlysiaLyons.com/books with an S. And you will see that book, which is released. You'll see the compilation books that I've participated in. And you will see my upcoming book, which is about my 4 surrogacy journeys.
Wow, this is exciting. And the upcoming book is, when is it coming out?
That one is coming out in March, because March is Surrogacy Awareness Month.
Oh my goodness.
March of 2025.
Oh, congratulations. This is exciting work you do. And I clearly love that you're so dedicated to helping moms. And I just want to ask, we hear about moms, wives, moms, but any men also work with you? Or because, some men have taken over the role of mom lately. Just curious, or is it strictly to the ladies still?
I'm open to coaching dads as well.
Good.
I have some really good friends that I've coached that are men, their dads. One of them I was talking with him yesterday about some anger that he was having, and you asked a question like, how do we release the emotions? Well, one of the ways that we can release emotions is something that's called a total truth letter. And there's 6 layers of emotions that you can go through. And if it starts at anger and it ends with love. And so you just talk about what am I angry at? What it hurt me? What do I regret? And so on. And so what we've been taught is shh, or I'll give you something to cry about when you're upset. And so we didn't ever learn how to express our emotions. And I'm a crier. I've always been a crier, and I can tell you the number of times I've heard calm down to stop me from crying. Let me tell you how many times that has worked. Absolutely 0.
I know. Oh, my goodness. And I mean, you're giving moms like myself advice, and, working with you, is there a certain program that you offer? How long is it? And, once you discover, what's going on, how many times a week are we meeting with you? Just curious how the process works to, be coached by yourself.
Yeah, so I have 2 programs that one is 6 sessions and one is 12.
Okay.
The sessions will depend on 30 minutes or an hour, depending on the client, because it's very client driven. Some clients are straightforward and to the point, and some clients, they like to talk. Like myself, I'm a talker. So I would need an hour long session because I want to give some of the story. And some people are like, listen, my mom is driving me crazy and I need help with that. Okay, great. And then we can jump right into it. So depending on who you are as a client, a lot of people will start with the 6 sessions just to see like what it is that I do and see if it'll help me, because they don't want to go longer and think, well, I don't want to pay for this and it's not going to help me. But so 6 sessions or 12 sessions, and it's weekly unless that doesn't fit in your schedule, and then we could do bi-weekly.
Oh my
twice
goodness.
a month.
And could you share a story or two of someone you've been working with? I know it's been a little while since we met. Anything in particular that stands out that would benefit our listeners today to know, how you're helping and how people are, working with you?
Yeah. So, she was talking to me about her, about not wanting to express her emotions in front of her child, because when she would cry, her son would run out of the room. And that hurt her to see, and she's interpreting that as he's afraid of her. And so since he's still sort of nonverbal, we can't actually assume that he's afraid of it. And so that was when I was sharing with her, like, one thing that you can do is tell him and explain to him, which she did this with the happy tears. She was crying because she was so proud of her son. And when he ran out of the room, she's like, oh my gosh, I can't even express myself in my own home because my son is scared of my emotions, whether they're good or bad, happy or sad emotions. And really what we need to be doing as parents is not trying to protect our children from our emotions, but allow our children to see our emotions, because that's how they know that our emotions aren't bad.
Yeah.
Emotions are part of being human. And so the more that you can share with them how to express your emotions, the better it'll be for them. And the more that you allow them to share their emotions and express it without saying, stop that, I'll give you something to cry about, which I think that's hopefully changing in parenting. So that's one client. And then the Total Truth Letter has come up quite a few times this week. So there's, not on purpose, but there ends up being kind of a universal theme that'll happen with clients, is they're just experiencing similar things. And so I've had 2 clients this week doing the Total Truth Letter with me. And the beautiful thing about doing it out loud is you don't have to destroy it afterwards. And the person that you're writing the letter to will never hear or read it, because you're saying it out loud. And once the words are out loud and you're not recorded, they're gone forever.
Oh, that's so true. To read it back and repeat. What is that? My girlfriend just did that with someone. It's RT something. Anyway, but she's doing like a session with someone and they're recording it and she keeps repeating it and listening to it. The RTT it's called or something. It's some
there's a type of hypnotherapy.
Yes. I don't know the name of it, but I mean, kind of to reestablish it all the time and to hear it and to kind of like ingrain in yourself. That's got to be helpful. That's good to know that you can record the sessions.
Some of them are recorded and some of them aren't. It depends on the comfort of the client. And this last one, she was doing a Total Truth Letter to her mom. And if you are a human who was raised by humans, you have some parent baggage. It's just part of, unless you've done the work, you have some baggage, because our parents, I truly believe that they're doing the best that they can with the tools and resources that they have. And people don't like hearing that because their parents were awful. But part of that, there's a little bit deeper, is that I had one client say, my dad, his parents shipped him off during the war to work in a factory. I would never have done that. And I said, you can't say that, because you were not your grandmother in that time period with her experiences in that moment. I guarantee you she didn't say, well, screw my kid. I don't really love him. I'm just going to ship him off to the factory.
There has to be a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the reality is if you lived your parents' life in the time period that they were living it with the consciousness of the world at that time, you would be exactly like your parent.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so true. You never know what someone's thinking and why. And, it's easy to judge, right? But yeah, we shouldn't judge. And don't you also have that mom support group on Facebook as well?
I do. My Facebook group is the Imperfect Mom Community, because my podcast is called Imperfect Momming. I don't think I've ever mentioned my podcast on your podcast before.
Tell us about it. Yes.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Imperfect Momming, Better Parenting Through Self-Healing. And I have guests on almost every episode. I do some solo episodes here and there, but I love having guests. I love having interesting conversations like this, and they're all experts in something. My most recent guest, I believe that episode will be out sometime mid-November, was a dad who came onto the podcast, and he was talking about how our system is set up for the 1960s when women couldn't have credit of their own to buy their own house. And so it kind of like it defaults to mom gets 100% and dad has to prove that he's worthy of getting any time with the kid. And I don't think that's fair, with the exception of, if there's an abusive situation in the home. And, men should, we need mothers and fathers as much as possible. Children need masculine and feminine energy around them.
It's so true. Yeah. I agree.
So,
and where can we find the podcast and when?
Yeah, so my podcast is on Spotify. I also post it on YouTube on the Mom Support Corner channel. And it is audio and video if you want to see what I look like and see my guests.
I do. Yay, I get to see your beautiful face. Oh, and unfortunately, we're almost out of time. I know we had those hiccups in the beginning. So how did you kind of want to wrap things up for today?
Yeah, so I just, I'd love to encourage you, go to the website, check out the peace assessment, and see where you're at, because GPS, you got to know where you're at in order to know where you're going. So we need to know on a scale of I think 5 to 30 or 5 to 25, where are you in your emotional peace?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started. Let's reach out. One more time, tell us the website, how we can find you and find your books.
So my name is AlysiaLyons.com, ALYSIALYONS.
Perfect.
And for books, you can type /books, BOOKS. For the peace assessment, you can type /peace, PEACE.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, for joining us, and looking forward to the next time we connect. In the meantime, enjoy your Halloween, right? This week.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Too.
Thanks again, sweetheart. Great to have you back. Bye. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.